The following video was recorded over 11 years ago by a group of teenagers who decided to visit a nearby graveyard late at night, a place that had already built a reputation among locals because of a rumor that something unusual guarded the area, something that wasn't aggressive in the traditional sense, but was said to appear to those who came looking for it. At first, like most rumors, they didn't fully believe it. It sounded like the kind of story people tell to scare others away from wandering into places they shouldn't be after dark. But curiosity got the better of them, and one night, armed with nothing but their phones and flashlights, they went to see for themselves. Watch this.
Maning. Ganito mo malayo.
At first, what they saw didn't fully register. Something was there, and it looked like a figure wrapped in white cloth. But before they could even process it, it was gone. And that's what makes the moment so confusing, because it doesn't move away, it doesn't run. It simply is there 1 second, and not there the next. But then, they see it again, and this time, it was clearer and more defined. Watch.
Subhanallah. Allah Akbar, 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 Allah Akbar.
They ran, but every time they stopped, even briefly, trying to catch their breath or look back, they saw it again. After they posted the video, it quickly caught attention, especially from viewers in Indonesia and Malaysia, where many people immediately recognized what they believed the figure to be. They called it a Pocong. The Pocong is one of the most well-known figures in Indonesian and Malaysian folklore, often referred to as the shroud ghost, because it is said to take the form of a deceased person still wrapped in their white burial cloth, known as a kain kafan. According to local belief, when a person is buried, the cloth is tied at the head, neck, and feet, and if those ties are not released within a certain period, traditionally around 40 days, the soul becomes trapped, unable to move on, and instead of walking, it is said to hop, returning to the world of the living, not necessarily to harm, but to seek release or closure. Now the question isn't just why it appeared, but why it followed. Was it asking for help, or was it making sure they didn't forget what they had seen? This one remains a mystery. This next clip was recorded by a security camera at a time when the house was completely empty, with the owners away for the day and no one expected to be inside, which is exactly why what was captured stands out so much, because there was no movement scheduled, no pets, no visitors, nothing that should have triggered the system. The camera itself was positioned in a part of the house that covered the kitchen area, including a clear view of the refrigerator, a spot that normally wouldn't draw much attention, but on this particular day, it became the focus of something no one could explain. Watch closely. At first, something begins to change in the reflection on the refrigerator's surface, and this is the moment that caught everyone's attention, because to some viewers, it doesn't just look like a reflection, it looks like a portal forming within the reflection itself. And then, shortly after that distortion appears, something walks through the frame. Some believe this could be an example of what's often described as a dimensional overlap, where reflective surfaces, especially mirrors or polished materials, act as temporary gateways or windows, allowing something from another space to briefly intersect with ours. So did that camera capture a one-time anomaly, or a doorway that opens more often than anyone realizes? Now in this next clip, the story begins in a way that feels almost ordinary, with a young man at home trying to relax while choosing a horror movie, completely unaware that he was about to experience something far more unsettling than anything on his screen. The house was quiet, nothing out of place, no indication that anything unusual was about to happen. And then, his doorbell goes off. Wondering if someone was actually at the door or if it was some kind of malfunction, he stands up to check. Watch. At first glance, the hallway appears empty. No one is standing there, no movement, and nothing that explains why the doorbell went off. But when you look closer, there's something else. A distorted shadow, faint but clearly present in the background. And what makes this even more unsettling is that it didn't stop. This continued for days. The doorbell ringing, the strange presence lingering, and the feeling that something was just outside, or maybe not outside at all. Eventually, he decides to confront it directly, opening the door to check for himself, expecting to finally find a logical explanation. But there's no one there, and instead of things ending there, that's when everything gets worse. One day, after returning home from work, he walks into his house and finds it like this. Watch. Seeing this made people think the initial doorbell incident may have been a form of invitation or acknowledgement, something testing whether it had his attention before escalating further. And yes, it escalated, because even when he is sitting calmly in his living room, trying to work or relax, he hears distinct noises coming from the kitchen, sounds that resemble movement, objects being handled, and the presence of someone physically there. But every time he goes to check, no one is there. Watch. Some theories suggest that whatever is present has moved beyond subtle signs and is now fully interacting with the physical environment, no longer hiding, but choosing when to reveal its presence. Others believe that repeated attention, even unintentional, can allow something like this to grow stronger, more confident, more active over time. And if that's true, then the doorbell may not have been random. It may have been the beginning. Until more updates are shared, this one remains unsolved. Now this next clip has caused a lot of controversy online, but beyond the debate, it has also sparked a much deeper conversation. The unsettling idea that there may be things sharing our living spaces with us that we are completely unaware of, moving quietly, existing just outside our perception, only becoming visible under very specific conditions. It's a thought that makes people question how much of what we call empty space is actually empty at all. In this particular case, the footage comes from a woman who describes herself as deeply religious, someone who strongly believes in spiritual protection and divine presence. And for her, what was captured on her Ring camera didn't feel threatening. It felt meaningful. Have a look. According to her, what you're seeing is her guardian angel, a protective presence moving through her home, watching over her and her space, something she believes has always been there, only now briefly revealing itself. But not everyone agrees with that interpretation. Some believe that entities don't always appear in forms that match their true nature, and that something harmful can sometimes present itself in a way that feels comforting or familiar, especially if it wants to remain undetected or welcomed. So what do you think? Is this something protective or something pretending to be? The following video was recorded by a man who works night shift at a school he believes is haunted. Very early in the morning, just before his shift ends, he hears loud screams echoing through the building, not clear enough to understand, but unmistakably human. Throughout the night, he rarely sleeps, not because he isn't tired, but because things keep happening. Doors shifting, sudden bangs from rooms he knows are empty, and sounds of movement when no one else is supposed to be there. His friends dismissed it, saying it was his mind playing tricks on him, caused by the isolation, the long hours, and the quiet. But one night, he finally captured something. Watch this.
Esa puerta también. ¿Vieron? Bueno, miren, en esta área es donde supuestamente miran una niña o han visto una niña. Tanto maestros como otros trabajadores de aquí del lugar dicen que miran una niña. ¿Escucharon eso? ¿Escucharon? Entonces... ¡Uy, güey! Vámonos. Vámonos. De repente como que se escucha a lo lejos gritos. Y aún es temprano. Miren. ¿Alcanzan a ver esa ventana? Como si algo estuviera ahí, ¿ven? ¿Fue imaginación o alguien tocó la puerta?
It was the usual drill. Doors slamming, sudden bangs, and if you look closely, the waste bin begins to move, like something unseen is pushing it. Schools, especially older ones, carry layers of emotional energy. Generations of students and staff passing through the same spaces year after year. And in rare cases, people believe that energy doesn't always leave. One theory, he was told, has stayed with him ever since. Years ago, someone else might have had the exact same job, walking the same halls, doing the same rounds alone, night after night. And if that person had passed away, maybe their spirit didn't realize the shift was over. For him, that's the only explanation that makes sense so far. But I'll leave you to decide what was really moving in that school that night. Now in this next video, a woman shares one of the most terrifying experiences she has ever had. Something that, even after replaying it multiple times and trying to rationalize it from every possible angle, still doesn't make sense to her. What makes it even more unsettling is that this wasn't a one-time occurrence, but something tied to a very specific condition inside her home. Have a look. The moment the light goes off, the sound begins, loud, raw, and deeply unnatural. People who have watched the clip have very different interpretations. Some say the sounds resemble what they believe to be demonic vocalizations, while others, trying to find a more grounded explanation, have compared it to gorilla-like noises, deep, guttural, and aggressive. But what truly sets this apart is what the woman herself points out. She only hears it when the light goes off. So what's she dealing with? I'll leave you to be the judge on this one. In the following clip from the Epic Paranormal channel, the team leader is exploring an old jail in West Virginia, a place with a long history and a reputation for intense activity, especially in one specific cell block. As they walk through the narrow corridor, the atmosphere already feels heavy, and the investigator mentions feeling like something is right behind him. That uneasy feeling is what makes him pull out his camera and start recording.
Sorry, this camera's got a really bad autofocus. It looked like there was a person there. Right there in front of me, it looked like there was a person. So, let me know what you think about that. Was it just the camera not focusing on the distal part of the sail? Or did you think it was something legitimate? I want to put this out there for people to comment on and get opinions. Thanks.
He slowly moves from cell to cell, shining his light across the walls, pointing out the strange drawings and writing carved into almost every surface, each one more unsettling than the last. While he's focused on documenting the markings inside a cell, he doesn't notice anything unusual in the moment. It's only later, when reviewing the footage, that something disturbing becomes clear. As he turns the camera back toward the corridor, a dark, human-shaped silhouette briefly appears behind him, standing silently before vanishing just as quickly. There's no sound, no movement caught on audio, just the unmistakable outline of what looks like a person where nobody should have been. The jail was empty, except for him, and there was nowhere for someone to hide or move that fast without being seen. That single frame changed everything, turning a routine investigation into one of their most chilling pieces of evidence yet. In this next clip, the narrator, Ashton, was reviewing old footage from a live stream when they noticed something that still gives them chills. At first glance, it looks completely normal. His mother is sitting calmly on the sofa, watching TV, unaware she's even being filmed. But if you look closely, there's something very wrong.
If you guys look next to my mother, you guys will see this weird looking figure on the right. My dad got a package that day at 20/20/10/14, 13/32/50. Now, as you can see, when he moved, it was still right there. Who was out on the couch with my mom? My sister was in the kitchen, I was upstairs, and my dad was doing a package. Who was that? Let's get a little closer look. I can't tell who that is. If you guys know who that is, comment down below, because I really cannot tell.
Sitting right beside her is a strange, human-shaped figure, close enough that their shoulders almost touch. It doesn't look solid, but it's not faint either. The shape has a head, a torso, and an unsettling posture, like it's deliberately seated there. What makes it worse is that everyone else in the house was busy in other rooms at the time, meaning no one should have been anywhere near her. The figure doesn't move, doesn't react, and disappears entirely by the time the camera angle changes. When Ashton showed the footage to his mother later, her reaction made it even creepier. She confirmed she never saw or felt anyone sitting next to her at all. She was completely alone, or at least she thought she was. Ashton says that since discovering this, he's gone back through other recordings, worried this wasn't the first time something like that had appeared near his family without them ever noticing. After settling into his new apartment just a week earlier, this man thought everything felt normal at first. The first night passed without issue, but on the second night, while lying in bed, he watched his bedroom door slowly open on its own. He brushed it off, telling himself it had to be air pressure or a faulty hinge. By the third night, though, things escalated. Around 11 p.m., he was relaxing in bed when he noted late at night on the 23rd of April, 2022, at 11 p.m., a man was unwinding in his quiet house, talking to his dogs the way people do when the calm feels too still. The place had that soft nighttime hush, where every small sound seemed louder and the dogs were relaxed beside him without a hint of concern. He kept chatting with them, feeling comfort in their presence and the familiar routine, when something subtle but unmistakably out of place shifted behind him. Clip. One of the chairs at the dinner table leaned back on its own. One of the chairs at the dinner table leaned back on its own, as if someone invisible had pushed off from the floor, then slowly settled back onto all fours again like nothing had happened. His dogs froze, their ears lifting slightly, but they didn't bark, almost like they sensed something, but chose to stay quiet. The man felt that strange tightening in his chest, the kind that comes when you know you witnessed something you can't explain, but your mind tries to rationalize anyway. There were no drafts, no pets near the dining area, no one else in the house. The moment left him wondering if something unseen had been sitting there all along, listening just as closely as the dogs were. Chris tried to shake off the memory of the chair moving on its own, but a few nights later, his wife mentioned she had been hearing scratching noises coming from their bedroom, the kind that made her feel watched, even when the lights were on. Wanting to prove nothing was wrong, he grabbed his phone and switched to the handheld camera, recording from inside of their bedroom.
But wifey said she'd been hearing scratching noises, or like, she said it sounded like something was in the wall in our room. So I'm gonna take a shower, change my clothes, get in some PJs, and we're gonna go, I guess, sit in the middle of the hallway till we hear something and see what we got. Right now it's 6:52 p.m. Yeah, give me a minute. I'm exhausted too. If I fall asleep, I apologize, but we'll check it out.
A couple of faint orbs drifted across the camera lens, and then those strange little taps echoed from the far wall, spaced out just enough to sound deliberate. He took a few careful steps forward, trying to figure out where the scratching had come from, when the door behind him gave a slow creak. He turned in time to watch it inch toward the frame, as if pulled by something steady and unseen. Then it clicked shut completely on its own. Sitting there with only his phone and the sound of his own breathing, Chris felt the same familiar dread creep up his spine, the kind that told him whatever was in their house had finally decided to make itself properly known. In the following video, CCTV footage from a young girl's bedroom captured something that immediately felt off, even before anything visibly happened. The room was quiet and perfectly still, the kind of silence you only get when everyone else in the house is asleep. A small bucket sat tucked against the wall, where it always stayed, untouched for days, and nothing seemed unusual until the camera picked up a faint flicker near the dresser. Without anyone in the room, the bucket suddenly tipped onto its side, then rolled with a slow, deliberate movement straight toward the middle of the floor, as if guided by an unseen force. A couple of soft orbs drifted across the camera, then another passed through the frame, each one subtle but unmistakable against the dark background. There were no pets running around, no vibrations on the floor, no reason for anything to move at all. The bucket eventually stopped in a spot it had never been before, and the room fell still again, like whatever caused it had finished making its point. Watching it back, it felt less like a random accident, and more like something inside the room was trying to draw attention, leaving behind a quiet question the footage couldn't answer. CCTV footage from the kitchen in the same house showed a late quiet hour, the kind where every shadow sits still, and nothing should be moving on its own. After the strange activity in the girl's room, the family had moved her doll onto a high shelf in the kitchen, hoping to keep it out of the way while they tried to figure out what was going on. The room looked normal in the video, but there was an odd heaviness to the frame, like the space was waiting for something to happen. Without anyone nearby, the doll suddenly tipped forward and slipped from the shelf, falling straight to the floor in a way that didn't look accidental or nudged by any draft. The impact made a muted thud, and for a moment nothing else stirred. The shelf was sturdy, the doll balanced carefully earlier that day, and there was no reason it should have moved at all. Watching the footage back, the fall felt intentional, like whatever had rolled the bucket earlier wasn't confined to just one room, and had followed the object into the kitchen to make its presence known again. Late that night, their baby monitor picked up more than just the soft breathing of their other child, showing a dimly lit room that should have been still and safe. The parents had been debating whether to move both kids back into the same room after everything that had been happening, hoping it might make them feel more secure, but the monitor ended up capturing something that pushed that decision into question. An orb drifted across the camera in a slow, floating line, and before either parent could react, the bedroom door eased open by itself, as if someone on the other side had quietly pushed it wide. The baby didn't stir, but the audio picked up a strange mix of noises that didn't belong to a child at all. Soft, irregular sounds that seemed to come from different corners of the room instead of the crib. For a moment, the monitor felt like a window into something they weren't supposed to see. The kind of activity that made every instinct tell them the house wasn't calming down, but escalating. Knowing their child was sleeping peacefully, while the room around them shifted and whispered on its own, made the parents rethink everything, wondering if putting both kids together would really keep them safer, or just expose them both to whatever was moving through the halls at night. After everything that had happened, the parents finally decided it wasn't worth the risk anymore and moved both kids out of their rooms for the night, letting everyone sleep together just to feel a little safer. The house felt different once the bedrooms were empty, quieter in a way that didn't feel comforting, almost like whatever had been causing all the activity was waiting to see what they would do next. They left the doll in their daughter's room from the first clip, partly because they didn't want it near the kids, and partly because they wanted to know if anything else would happen without anyone inside. The CCTV footage showed a close-up shot of the doll, which had been placed upright on a small chair, as it suddenly toppled forward and fell to the floor again, with no one around and no movement anywhere else. It didn't slide or wobble first, it just dropped, like it had been pushed or yanked by something unseen. The chair stayed perfectly steady, the air didn't shift, and after the doll hit the ground, the room went back to being completely silent. That clip ended up being the last strange thing they ever caught on camera, leaving them with the unsettling feeling that the activity had reached its peak and then simply stopped, as if whatever was behind it had finally gotten whatever reaction it wanted. At the Jefferson Palace Hotel, a man working late claimed that a giant decorative candle had been sitting right in the way of a pool player earlier that evening, so he and a co-worker moved it to another spot just to keep the area clear. The night wind was quiet, the lobby mostly empty, and everything felt normal except for the small mistake they didn't notice until later. They had accidentally left the front door unlocked. Hours after closing, they returned to check on something and found the candle lying on the ground, even though no one else was supposed to be inside.
Video of something that happened earlier today. So this candelabra, this big giant one right here, was in the way of one of the pool players last night. So they moved it. It's not the lightest thing to move, but they moved it in front of this door. Well, this door usually stays locked throughout the night. But what happened is we left it unlocked. And when I came in the next day, this candelabra was on the ground right here. Now, we do have a camera right here, but you're not going to see what happened on that camera. The other camera is actually way over here in our ballroom area, aimed through here, and we caught this on camera. I thought someone tried to open the door and to get in, and they knocked the candlestick over and then shut it. Well, I go back and look at the footage, and the door actually opened by itself, which could be explained by wind, but it then shut by itself, which is not explainable by wind. So let me show you, first off, you can open this door, and it has a little stop to it. So it doesn't open, first off, by itself easily. Next, if it hits the base of this, it would take a lot to move this. Now, if it did hit the arm up here, it could still fall over, but it would take a whole lot for it to fall over. Well, let me show you. Let me open the door and show you. I can open the door all the way, and it does not shut by itself. Matter of fact, it opens like that. So the footage you're going to see, you'll notice nobody walks by. You can actually see somebody walk by. Prior to the footage, you see the shadows there and in that window. But this footage, you'll see nobody walks by, door opens by itself, and then the door shuts by itself. So again, I can't really say it's anything paranormal, but definitely not explainable by wind. Let me show you the footage. Okay, so here's the footage. This is in the ballroom area. So I have to zoom way in. You'll hear some music playing in the background because we have some music playing, ambient music. But you'll notice the door at the very top of your screen. In a second, you're going to see somebody walk by. Right there. So there's a shadow of somebody walking by. So when I saw the candlestick on the ground, I figured someone tried to get in or, and accidentally knocked it over. But that's not the case. So I'm going to go to about 25 seconds and you'll see the door open and the candlestick fall. You can tell nobody's there. And now the door shuts. So kind of weird because you notice in the previous video, and I've done a lot of debunking on my videos, but the door doesn't shut by itself. It was not one of those deals where it's like a vacuum with the air conditioning or anything like that. Again, I can't say it's anything paranormal, but can't explain it. So let's watch it again. So we'll just chalk it off to a weird event, and I've never been able to recreate it, but just wanted to show everybody kind of what we capture in this area.
Wondering if someone had tried to break in, they pulled up the CCTV and the man started explaining all the ways the heavy front door couldn't possibly shut on its own, pointing out the weight of the hinges, the way it sticks, and how it takes a firm push to move at all. Then he showed the footage. The door into the establishment slowly eased itself open, like someone invisible had slipped in. Then after a few seconds it closed again with the same steady movement, sealing completely without anyone touching it. The candle's fall suddenly didn't look like an accident, and the unlocked door felt less like a mistake and more like an invitation something had quietly accepted. Later that night in the Jefferson Palace Hotel, one of the staff members was making his rounds through the long hallways, sorting out linens and checking that everything was ready for the morning shift. The halls were usually peaceful at that hour, filled only with the quiet hum of the building and the soft shuffle of his footsteps, and nothing about the routine felt unusual until he reached the far end where the lights always seemed a little dimmer. He paused to adjust something when something caught his attention at the edge of the frame on the security feed he carried with him. A door beside him eased itself open with a slow, careful movement, stopping just wide enough to suggest someone might step out. Then after a moment it swung shut again without anyone touching it. The staff member stood frozen for a second, staring at the door that had settled back into place like nothing had happened, and the silence afterward felt heavier than before. There were no guests in that wing, no draft strong enough to move anything, and the door had always been known for sticking, not swaying. The moment left him with the uneasy sense that whatever had wandered through the front entrance earlier hadn't stayed in the lobby, but had drifted deeper into the hotel, watching from behind doors that shouldn't have been moving at all. In the following video, the man behind the camera keeps moving through what looks like a storage area, the kind of tight corridor where every box and shadow feels like it has weight, and you can tell he is already on edge as he scans each corner with the camera. He stops when he notices a door that should never be opened during the investigation, sitting cracked just enough to make the hallway feel wrong, and he slowly leans in to look behind it, even though the team is nowhere nearby.
La puerta se abre y se cierra sola.
Se está abriendo esa puerta.
No hay nadie. Y por acá también se escucha ruido.
He finds the door opening a crack, so opens it and checks behind it just to see nothing. Because of this, he walks away and the door shuts by itself as a strange noise starts playing behind it, and he speed walks out of the hallway. The second that door slams, you can see his whole body tense, because that wasn't wind, and it definitely wasn't timing or coincidence. And the noise that follows sounds like something trying to push through the wall just to remind him he is not supposed to be there. His footsteps turn into a full speed walk that almost looks like he wants to run, but refuses to make noise, and every few seconds he glances back like he expects the door to open again. Moments like that show exactly why investigators always say curiosity is one thing, but when the building answers you on its own, that is when you learn how fast fear can move. It was late enough that the local markets should have felt peaceful, but every shutter was pulled down tight and the whole place looked abandoned, except for May cutting through the empty rows. She knew the place was closed and shouldn't have held any noise at all, which is why the first faint scream stopped her in her tracks, sounding like someone crying out in pain from deep inside the metal-covered stalls. She followed it slowly, each step making the sound grow sharper and more desperate, until it felt like it was right beside her, but no matter where she turned, there was never anyone there.
Imagínate andar por la central de abastos y oír esto.
The screaming and crying keep getting louder as she walks, yet she can't find the source even when it sounds feet away. By the time she reached the end of the walkway, the noise was so overwhelming it felt like it was coming from the walls, and she spun around expecting someone to stumble out, but the shutters were sealed tight like they hadn't moved in hours. That was the moment she realized she wasn't chasing a person at all, and the way the sound cut off instantly once she stopped filming, almost like it knew she understood, made the silence after feel even worse. May had walked straight into something trying to be heard, and the fact that it never showed itself only made it clearer that she had been listening to a ghost. It happened late in the evening when the house was already settling into that quiet that makes every shadow seem a little thicker, and Charlie kept tugging at his dad's sleeve, saying there was a scary boy standing across the room staring at him. His dad brushed it off at first, calling it pretend, but Charlie wasn't smiling or joking. He just kept insisting the boy was real and he didn't want to be near him. Eventually, the dad told him to show where this scary boy was, so Charlie nervously walked with him through the hall and stopped at a doorway, pointing inside with his hands shaking like he expected something to move.
What are you saying, Charlie? There's a scary boy where? What do you mean? What, are you doing pretend? Yeah, you're just playing pretend, aren't you? Do you want to show me? Show me then. Come on. You show me where he is. This is actually fucking mad. Where? Where? In there? In there? Okay, get ready, Charlie. No scary boy. No, there's nothing there, mate. Do you want me to go in? Look. There's absolutely nothing in here. You've got nothing to be scared about. I'm absolutely shitting myself. There's nothing to be scared about. There's nothing here. That's just the bathroom. Nothing there, buddy. Yeah. Yeah. That's just the shower. Never been more scared in my entire life. Oh. See, told you. Nothing there, mate. Perfect. Come on. Let me silly.
The father opens the door and sees nothing, while Charlie refuses to step past the threshold. The moment the door swings open to an empty room, the dad turns back confused, but Charlie steps back like he's afraid something invisible is right in front of him, claiming that the scary boy is still there, even if his dad can't see him. That kind of fear doesn't come from pretending, and the way Charlie wouldn't even look into the room made the dad realize this wasn't just a kid's imagination. It was something he couldn't explain, and something Charlie clearly wished he hadn't noticed at all. It was supposed to be a quiet night in Braden's room, but the ceiling kept creaking with slow, heavy footsteps, even though nobody was home, and there shouldn't have been anything moving above him at all. He sat still for a second, trying to convince himself it was the house settling, but the steps were too steady, too human, so he grabbed his flashlight and started walking through the dark halls with that kind of nervous focus where every sound feels closer than it should.
Wow, it's really bad right now. Okay, hold on. Jesus. Okay, hold up. Why is the tree on there? Whatever that is coming from up here. Should I attempt to go in there? Because that was coming, all that thumping, it was coming from like right in there, in that room. What the?
He points his flashlight upstairs and hears his own exact voice say, "Come up for a sec." The way the voice coming down the stairs matched his tone perfectly meant he froze, because there was no way his own voice should be calling him from a place where nobody was standing. It wasn't an echo, and it wasn't a trick of the house. It sounded like something pretending to be him just to get his attention. He didn't step closer. He didn't even breathe for a moment, because when something upstairs can mimic you perfectly, the last thing you want to do is give it the chance to talk again. The following video was captured amidst a normal slow night at the sneaker shop. The kind where the worker is just sweeping the floor, and straightening boxes while the CCTV quietly records every corner of the room. Nothing feels off until the air suddenly shifts a little, just enough to make him pause, and the camera catches him glancing toward the back, like he sensed something move. As he keeps cleaning, the door to the back of the shop slams shut on its own, even though nothing is near it. He jumps and stares because there's no draft, no co-workers, no reason for it to slam with that much force, and the CCTV angle shows the room behind it is completely empty. It's the kind of movement that looks deliberate, like something wanted to make itself noticed, and the way he slowly backs away from the doorway says everything. Even in a brightly lit shop, surrounded by sneakers and shelves, that door made it clear he wasn't alone at all. The same sneaker shop is open now, customers walking around and the place feeling completely normal, like nothing strange had ever happened there. And one of the workers is helping a guy try on a new pair he picked from the wall. They're chatting casually as the customer slips the sneakers on. Then he walks over toward the mirror to get a better look, while the worker follows a few steps behind, totally unaware that the cameras are still watching every corner and about to capture something crazy.
Yeah, I'm going, bro. Railroad pretty cool. He's trying to take it on that slope. Hell no.
As the customer stands in front of the mirror, a single sneaker from the display wall drops to the floor on its own, with no one near it, causing both of them to panic and run. The moment that sneaker hits the ground, they both whip around because it didn't slide. It didn't wobble off. It fell straight down like something knocked it loose with intention. You can see the confusion turn into fear instantly, and the worker doesn't even try to explain it before bolting toward the front door with the customer right behind him. It feels like whatever slammed the back door before was still there, waiting for another chance to be noticed, and that single falling sneaker was enough to send them both running. The shop had only been open for 12 minutes when the man working started saying something was moving around in the attic, and the walls, like the whole building, was settling wrong, and the fact that the store next door was abandoned made every sound feel way more isolated than it should. He walked around the aisles with his camera, trying to prove he wasn't imagining it, and the second he passed the back corner, he heard a hard knock hit behind the wall, like something was following him from the other side.
Okay, we have literally been open for 12 minutes. There is so much stuff happening right now that I don't even understand it. So I'm going to show you. No one's on the cameras. There is stuff coming from the attic and in the walls again. And if you look it up, the store next to us doesn't exist. They went out of business. No one's here. Hello? Hello? Did you hear the knock? Hello? Can you knock again? Oh my. What the? It's honestly a great day to be haunted. I'm just recording right from Insta. I don't know if the machines are so loud, but there's so much knocking coming from the attic. This is insane, like literally. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna throw up. I'm not ready for this. It is too early for this. We're not even open. Hello? Is there a reason you're so active right now? My Jesus Christ! What the fuck is that? I can't fake that. Holy cow. Okay, wait. I'm gonna try to do one continuous video proving that nobody's up here. Oh my god. Oh my god, I have goosebumps. Wow, this ain't even a TikTok. Okay. I'm just... God. Okay, it literally just stopped. It literally just stopped. Okay, can't show the code. Can't show the code. Something literally flew off the wall. Bro. Spirit, is there a reason you're so upset today? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, Jesus. I don't even know where to go. Okay. Holy, look at this. I'm a little actually scared right now because this is in the morning. We don't usually experience this much in the morning.
The knocks keep happening as he circles the store, most of them coming from the attic, and the place isn't even open yet, so there is no way it could be a prankster customer. He pulls down the attic ladder, and loud banging erupts above him, before going silent. But right as he says it stopped, more knocks explode across the ceiling, and something is thrown off the wall. He shows the item on the floor through the CCTV feed. When the object hits the ground, he freezes, because that wasn't just noise, it was force, and the attic ladder hanging open behind him makes it feel like something could climb down at any second. He stands there breathing hard while staring into the dark above, and the silence that follows feels like the building is waiting for him to move so it can answer again. Ian, a ghost hunter in the Midwest, entered a decaying factory that locals claimed was haunted. The air was thick with dust and the faint smell of rust, and the silence made every creak echo like a warning. He set up his equipment, hoping to communicate with whatever lingered in the shadows, and immediately something responded.
Who are you? Whoa. Sir, why do you still haunt this tannery? But you said railing. Railing. Like fell over the railing. Are you saying that you died on these catwalks? And that you fell? Whoa. It sounded like that's what happened. Jesus, this is so crazy. Thank you, sir, for communicating with me. Is there anything you would like to say? Sounded like it said work. Are you going back to work? Well, I'm going to go ahead and let you get back to work then, if that's the case.
The voice was faint but clear, saying, "Lost my balance." Ian asked why it haunted the place, and the reply came simply, "Railing." Piecing it together, he assumed the spirit had fallen from the railing in life, and the ghost confirmed that's what happened. Feeling a mix of relief and awe, Ian thanked the spirit for sharing its story, then gave it one last chance to speak. The final words whispered back, "It's working," leaving Ian with the eerie sense that the factory still held secrets, and that even in death, some connections lingered longer than expected. The following clip is about a man named Daniel Thompson, who occasionally returns to stay for a few days at the family home where he and his sister grew up. Recently, due to some accommodation issues, he's been staying there more often, and during those visits, he says he's begun noticing things in the house that he can't easily explain. According to Daniel, the strange feeling isn't entirely new. In fact, he believes something may have been present in that house since they were children. One reason he gives is his mother's unusual hobby. She has always been an avid collector, filling the house over the years with all kinds of strange antiques, dolls, puppets, and odd artifacts she picked up from flea markets, thrift stores, and estate sales. And one item in particular has always unsettled him, the dollhouse sitting in his sister's room. Daniel says that almost every time he walks past that room, he hears a faint knocking sound coming from inside. And for some reason, he's convinced the sound is coming from the dollhouse itself. Watch this. After hearing the knocking so many times, Daniel began wondering if one of the strange items his mother brought into the house years ago might have something attached to it, and considering how many eerie collectibles fill the rooms, it's not hard to see why the thought crossed his mind. In the next clip, you'll see some of the unusual items his mother has collected over the years. Take a look.
Okay, so the other thing that really creeps me out, that I do not like, but I will show you guys, is in my sister's old room, or I guess still room. Dollhouse. I don't know how to explain it. The only thing I can say that has happened with it is sometimes when I walk by, or like I go, the bathroom's back there, and I walk through and I hear like tapping coming from this room. It's like it's like yeah, it's like, I know it's coming from this room, and so I come in here and then it usually stops, except for like maybe 3 nights ago, like the tapping kept happening, and I came over and I was trying to figure out like where it was coming from, but it was coming from this dollhouse and I don't know where, and it hasn't done it since. Like, why is it so intricate? It's like, freaks me out. not showing you guys this again, so take one last look. Yeah. Fuck that thing.
His mother has several old dolls, puppets, and handmade figures, some of which already look unsettling even before anything strange happens. But viewers watching the footage noticed something that Daniel didn't mention right away. Toward the end of the video, just before he says, "Freaks me out," many people claim they can hear what sounds like the faint voice of a young girl somewhere in the background. And then there were the comments about one particular doll, the red one in the beginning of the clip. Several viewers said the doll had what they described as bad juju written all over it, with others pointing out the puppet beside it also looked unusually sinister. But according to Daniel, those aren't even the creepiest dolls in the house. There was one they absolutely couldn't stand while growing up. Watch this. If you look closely at the doll wearing the blue shirt and purple pants, something odd happens. For a brief moment, its eyes appear to blink. It's subtle, but once you notice it, it's difficult to unsee. Still, the most convincing moment for Daniel came after he decided to move the dollhouse out of the room. Almost immediately, the knocking sound stopped. For a while, the house became completely quiet again. But then something else happened. The knocking started again, in the room where he had moved the dollhouse, and that alone was enough to make him uneasy. Eventually, Daniel decided to spend a night at a friend's house, just to get away from the place for a while. But while he was there, his phone rang. It was his mother asking if he was back home trying to scare her. Confused, he told her he was still at his friend's place, so she sent him a video recorded by the living room security camera. Watch this. In the footage, the living room appears completely empty, but after a few seconds, faint footsteps can be heard moving through the house. At first, she thought Daniel might be playing some kind of prank, but after confirming he wasn't home at all, the situation suddenly felt a lot more serious. For the first time, she started wondering if something else might actually be moving through the house, and if the sounds really were coming from whatever was inside that dollhouse, then moving it may not have solved the problem. It might have just moved the problem somewhere else. Until more updates come from Daniel and his family, all anyone can do for now is hope whatever is happening there doesn't get worse. In this next video, a team of paranormal investigators return to the Wheelhouse in London, a historic building dating all the way back to 1885. Today the building operates as a pottery business, but according to local stories and previous investigations, the place may hold more than just clay and pottery wheels. During an earlier investigation, the team believed they had captured evidence suggesting a female spirit might be connected to the building, possibly dating back to the time of World War II. Wanting to learn more about who, or what, might still be present there, they decided to return for another night of investigation. Watch this.
The lady that wanders here that leaves the smell of a fragrance, a perfume. What was that, Phil? I heard knocking. Did you hear knocking?
I don't know.
As soon as I mentioned the lady.
While Phil, one of the investigators, is speaking about World War II and the history surrounding the area, something unusual happens. In the background, a faint whisper can be heard, quiet, but distinct enough that several viewers immediately noticed it. Listen closely.
Until after the war, when they decided that they were going to go back to what they knew best, and that was shop fitting. Now, one of the directors was a chap called George Parnell.
Hold on, Phil.
Until after the war, when they decided that they were going to go back to what they knew best, and that was shop fitting. Now, one of the directors was a chap called George Parnell.
Hold on, Phil.
In this part of the recording, a voice can be heard saying something that sounds like, "The Yankees are here." The phrase immediately caught the team's attention because during World War II, American soldiers, often referred to as Yankees, were stationed throughout parts of the United Kingdom. Some viewers believe the voice could be connected to someone who lived through that time, perhaps replaying a moment from the past when American troops arrived in the area. Trying to get more answers, the investigators continue attempting to communicate with whatever might be present in the building, and that's when this happens.
Last time we were here, this particular area we're sat in now, we heard quite a few noises. We heard the china being moved or knocked against. Could you do that again, perhaps on... What's that?
It's the REM pod going into alarm. The temperature's gone into alarm.
Oh, I heard a chink of something as well.
Yeah, I did. Somewhere behind you on the pottery again, Phil?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Could you do that again for me, please?
Suddenly, the REM pod, a device used by investigators to detect electromagnetic disturbances, goes into alarm. According to the team, the device reacted at the same moment they felt a sudden drop in temperature in the room. Then, almost immediately afterward, a sharp sound echoes through the building, like a piece of pottery being struck or knocked over somewhere nearby. The investigators pause, waiting to see if anything else will happen, and before long, they hear something else. Watch this.
Do you want me to talk to you about the war, as you asked? If you do, could you knock maybe the pottery again or bang on the table?
Someone's walking.
I heard something then.
Just heard footsteps.
You can hear clear footsteps, as though someone is walking through the building. What makes the moment unsettling is that the investigators confirm they are completely alone inside the space. No other staff, no customers, no one else who could be walking around the pottery workshop. Yet the footsteps sound deliberate, like someone slowly moving across the floor nearby. Old buildings often carry strange sounds, shifting wood, echoing pipes, distant vibrations traveling through the structure. But moments like this still leave people wondering if something else might still be moving through places, long after the people who once lived there are gone. So was it echoes from the past, or a spirit tied to the building's wartime history? You decide. Now in this next video, a woman named Genevieve hears something that catches her attention late in the evening. From another room, she can hear her young daughter talking, not just babbling or playing, but clearly speaking as if she's having a conversation with someone. Curious and a little confused, Genevieve calls out to her daughter, asking who she's talking to. A moment later, the little girl begins walking out of the dark room toward her mother. But as she steps out, something else appears in the footage. Watch closely.
Lorelei, come here. Lorelei, who are you playing with? What are you doing?
What?
At first glance, many people's first reaction is probably the same, a shadow. But when viewers started looking closer, several details made the situation far more unsettling. For one thing, the room behind the child is almost completely dark. There's no obvious light source inside the room that could project a shadow that clearly across the space. Yet the dark figure seems to move independently from the girl herself. And if you slow the footage down, the shape doesn't match her body. The child is only wearing a diaper and a small t-shirt, but the figure behind her appears to have something hanging behind its legs, almost like a robe or long piece of fabric trailing downward. Even stranger is the way it moves. Instead of stretching or bending like a normal shadow would, when projected onto a wall or floor, the shape walks upright, moving through the middle of the room as if it has depth, almost like a three-dimensional figure rather than a flat shadow. Some viewers also pointed out something else that's hard to ignore. The dark figure appears to move before the child moves. Normally, a shadow reacts to the movement of the person creating it. It follows their motion, delayed only by fractions of a second. But in this case, the dark form seems to step forward slightly ahead of the girl. Another strange detail is where it appears in the frame. Shadows usually need a surface to be projected onto, a wall, a floor, or another object. But this figure seems to pass across open space in the middle of the room before fading away, almost like something briefly walking beside the child. If Genevieve's daughter really was talking to someone in that dark room, maybe the camera briefly captured who or what she was talking to. But I'll leave you to be the judge on this one. The following video revolves around something that, at first glance, sounds impossible. A phone that keeps ringing even though it has no power connected to it. The phone has been sitting inside the house for years, an old landline model that the family kept mostly as a decoration after it stopped working. But recently, it started doing something strange. Watch this.
This haunted phone rings without power.
Out of nowhere, the phone begins ringing. Naturally, the first reaction was to pick it up and see who might be calling. But every time someone answered it, there was nothing on the other end of the line. No voice, no static, no sound at all, just silence. And the strange part is that the phone isn't even connected to an active power source. When the clip was first shared, many viewers were quick to offer a simple explanation. Some said it might be a recurring electrical spark somewhere in the wiring of the house, or perhaps leftover electricity briefly triggering the ringer. Wanting to rule that out, the owners actually opened the phone to inspect it, but inside, there was nothing that could realistically hold power long enough to make the phone ring repeatedly. No battery, no capacitor, large enough to store energy for more than a few seconds. And this wasn't a modern device either. The phone had reportedly been in the house since the 1970s. That detail made the situation even more unsettling for some viewers. Older landline phones are mechanical in nature, meaning the ringing sound usually requires a proper electrical signal traveling through the phone line. Without that signal, the bell simply shouldn't ring. which led some people to speculate about another possibility. Ringing phones are sometimes linked to what investigators call phantom calls, strange events where disconnected phones ring or pick up signals that can't easily be traced. Of course, there are still many possible explanations, from unusual wiring in the walls to interference coming from nearby lines. But when a phone that shouldn't have power suddenly starts ringing in the middle of a quiet house, it's hard not to wonder who, or what, might be trying to call. And the strangest part? Even after all the attempts to answer it, no one has ever been on the other end of the line. Now in this next video, a man named Nate, someone already recognized for the strange activity that has been happening inside his home, records something unsettling while visiting a cemetery for work. At first it was faint, like something shifting or moving at somewhere between the rows of graves. Since he knew he was the only person there at the time, the noises immediately put him on edge. Watch this.
I heard you over there. I heard you moving around. Let me know you're here. Close that door. Yes, this is your cemetery, I know. I'm just trying to keep it nice for you. Keep it maintained and looking nice, out of respect. I'm not trying to So I'm hearing shuffling now. It sounded like it was behind the cement mixer. Fast footsteps or something that was back there. Clearly you can see there's nothing back there. So, not sure what that was. Reach behind there. All right then. That, a rainy day up here. Gotta love it. I swear, anytime the weather's like this, weird shit happens. So let's hope today is not one of those days. There's that thing. Holy f***. Yeah, that's just great. Hell no.
The area around him seems quiet, but the sounds continue, almost like someone slowly moving nearby while staying just out of sight. Nate tries to brush it off and continues filming, but the uneasy feeling never really leaves. Later in the video, after it gets darker, something even more disturbing appears. If you look closely beside the window, there's a faint figure standing there. It's difficult to make out clearly, but the shape is just visible enough to resemble someone watching from the side. And there's another detail many viewers didn't notice the first time. Earlier in the video, before the scene near the window, a shadowy figure can be seen standing outside in the background. The shape is dark and still, blending into the surroundings, which is probably why it's so easy to miss at first. After seeing the footage, many viewers started connecting it to the strange experiences Nate has already shared from his home. The unexplained scratches he sometimes wakes up with, objects being thrown across rooms, and sharp items suddenly moving without explanation. Because of that, some people began wondering if whatever has been causing those disturbances might not be limited to his house. Maybe it followed him, or worse, maybe it started somewhere else entirely. Cemeteries have long been associated with stories of restless spirits and lingering energy, places where the line between the living and the dead is often believed to be thinner than usual. So the question many people asked after watching the video was simple. Did Nate unknowingly bring something back with him from the cemetery that night? Or had it already been with him long before he ever stepped foot there? Again, I'll leave you to be the judge. The following video was captured by a family's CCTV while they were out. On their way back to the house, they received a motion notification, which isn't unusual, but when they opened the app to check, what they saw stopped them cold. Watch. If you look closely, a figure slowly peeks out from one of the rooms, pauses, and then pulls back in, gently closing the door behind it. Their first reaction wasn't paranormal, it was panic. They immediately assumed someone had broken in, a neighbor or a stranger, so they checked every other camera. The front entrance, the driveway, the backyard, even the side windows. Nothing. No one entered, no one left, no broken locks, no forced windows. And when they rushed home, everything was exactly as they had left it. No drawers open, no items missing, and no sign that anyone had physically been there. If it were an intruder, there should have been evidence. Movement outside, a door opening, something, but there wasn't, which leaves two possibilities. Either someone was already inside the home before they left, or what they saw wasn't a physical person at all. Some viewers suggest it could be a closet ghoul, a term used to describe humanoid entities believed to hide in enclosed spaces like closets, crawl spaces, or walls. In folklore, these beings are said to feed on fear, making scratching or tapping sounds to provoke a response. They rarely show themselves fully, preferring partial appearances, just enough to be noticed. Others suggested something far darker, a crawler. Crawlers are often described as pale or shadowy humanoid creatures with elongated limbs, capable of moving silently and contorting their bodies in unnatural ways. But the thing is, whichever theory you lean towards still sounds terrifying. If you were in their position, knowing something appeared inside your home while you were away, and there's absolutely no explanation for how it got in or out, would you feel safe sleeping there again? And what would you do? In this next clip, a family began noticing strange things happening inside their home. Kitchen drawers slightly open in the morning when they were sure they'd closed them. Lights flickering on in rooms no one had entered. Objects like keys and remotes disappearing only to show up in obvious places later. Footsteps upstairs when everyone was downstairs, and soft knocking sounds from inside walls. Every time something happened, the wife immediately suspected something paranormal. The husband, however, insisted there had to be a logical explanation. Air pressure, faulty hinges, house settling, even stress playing tricks on perception. The two never agreed. So to settle it once and for all, they installed cameras. One night, while they were both sitting in the living room, this happened. The cabinet door suddenly swings open on its own. No one is near it, and if you look closely, something else appears. What looks like an orb emerging from inside the cabinet and moving directly toward the camera. For the wife, that was confirmation. For the husband, not quite. He argues it could be dust reflecting infrared light, or the cabinet hinge finally giving way, but admits he got terrified because it happened unexpectedly. Now, according to the activity has been increasing, more noises, more movement, and a stronger feeling of being watched. The real question here isn't just whether it's paranormal or logical, it's how to stop it from happening. So what would you advise them to do next? Now in this next video, a man claims he may have captured proof of the paranormal, but I'll let you be the judge. Watch.
Sal. Enséñame algo. No, sin toalla.
Ya, no. Ay.
Sin toalla.
Yo.
In the footage, everything starts off normal. He's casually filming while his girlfriend steps out of the bathtub. It's light-hearted, calm, nothing unusual, but just as he's about to leave the bathroom, he hears something that makes him pause. The water was running again. He knew it was turned off, and his girlfriend was already out, so naturally, he turned back to check. Suddenly, a romantic moment turned into a nightmare within seconds. So is this paranormal or a perfectly timed illusion? I'll let you be the judge on this one. The following video was captured by a building's CCTV. One morning around 5:30 a.m., a man was heading out for work, but as he stood outside his door locking it, something moved in the corner of his vision. At first, he thought it was just someone passing by in the hallway, but when he looked again, whatever it was didn't move like a person. Have a look.
Saliendo para trabajar hoy a las 5:30 de la mañana.
In the footage, a strange-looking figure passes through the corridor and then suddenly disappears from view. Not turning a corner or entering a doorway, it simply disappears in a way that doesn't feel natural. What makes this even stranger is his reaction. As he walks toward the exit, you can see him subtly scanning the hallway, almost expecting to run into whoever just passed. Later, he admitted he was trying to figure out if maybe someone in the building worked night shifts and was just getting home unusually early. But according to him, most residents leave around that time. No one returns. Out of curiosity, he mentioned it to building security, and that's when things escalated. One of the guards pulled up the CCTV and showed him the clip, and they were just as confused. When they checked other cameras covering stairwells, entrances, and elevators, no one entered any apartments, no doors opened, and no one came in from outside. The only visible movement in the building during that time frame was people leaving for work. So what exactly passed that camera? Was it a neighbor moving too fast for the camera to capture properly? A technical glitch? Or something sharing the building that doesn't need keys, doors, or elevators? Whatever passed that morning didn't show up anywhere else on the system. And that's the part that continues to bother everyone involved. The guy in this next video says he's been waking up almost every morning to find his house in complete disarray. Chairs slightly shifted, items knocked off tables, small objects scattered across the floor, like someone had been searching for something in the dark. He does have a cat, and naturally, that was the first explanation. But according to him, he's had the cat for years, and it's never behaved like this. And whenever the activity starts, and he opens his eyes, the cat is right beside him. One morning, after hearing that same movement again, he grabbed his phone. This time, he was determined to get proof, especially for his girlfriend, who doesn't fully believe him. Here's what the camera caught.
Io metto nada di colore. È inutile. E acá non c'è niente.
After posting the footage, paranormal believers quickly noticed something, the artifact sitting on the table. and when he mentioned he just got them recently, people started dropping comments. In paranormal lore, objects with unknown histories, especially antiques, artifacts, or items from estate sales, are often considered attachment points. The belief is that certain objects can carry emotional residue, spiritual attachments, or what investigators call residual energy. Now he's left wondering whether removing them will stop it, or if whatever came with them is already comfortable in his home. What do you think? Now in this next clip, a guy decides to record a quick video to show his sister's fiancé just how unsettling the crematorium where he works can feel after hours. What starts as a casual walkthrough, almost playful, slowly shifts into something far more disturbing. Watch this.
Lights, they turn off automatically at a certain hour. And I'll tell you right now, I'm going to walk you through I have a friend that works that he would see and hear things coming from these furnaces when they're burning the bodies. So when I'm walking through here, they usually put the urns out to send to the families. So when I'm walking here at night, I walk right by these urns that they put on these tables here. And then I come down, freaking out.
Crematoriums already carry a certain weight. Even in the daytime, they're quiet in a way that feels heavy. Many believe crematoriums absorb grief, and there's a reason for that. Day after day, families walk in carrying shock, sadness, denial, anger. That kind of emotion doesn't just disappear. Some paranormal researchers argue that intense emotional energy can imprint itself on environments, especially in places closely tied to death. Others believe repeated exposure to the deceased can thin the barrier between worlds, making activity more likely, particularly at night, when the building is empty and still. He's convinced it's a ghost haunting the crematorium, and until someone offers him a better explanation for what he saw and felt in that moment, he's standing by that belief. So what do you think? A mind reacting to a heavy environment? Industrial sounds misinterpreted in the silence of night? Or something lingering where the living and the dead briefly meet? You decide. In this next video, a man captures something absolutely terrifying while he was out at night. At first, nothing seemed out of the ordinary, just darkness, trees, and the usual night sounds. But then, he looked closely and saw this.
Yeah, I can't zoom in, babe. Look at that. Wait, I lost it. There it is, there it is. You see that shit right in the middle of the camera? What the that? Oh, nah. Oh, nah. Oh, nah.
Something is crouched low to the ground, moving in a way that doesn't look natural. Now here's where it gets unsettling. For centuries, forests have been at the center of paranormal folklore. Woods are often described as thin places, areas where the boundary between worlds is weaker. In many cultures, forests are believed to be home to spirits, shapeshifters, and entities that avoid populated areas. There are legends of creatures that mimic human movement but never quite get it right. Some viewers say it resembles a crawler, a pale, humanoid cryptid, often reported in wooded areas. Others think it could be a skinwalker or shapeshifter from folklore, entities said to imitate human or animal forms, but with subtle, disturbing differences. Of course, there's always the possibility of misidentification. Darkness can turn ordinary things into something terrifying. But one thing is certain, whatever that was didn't move in a way that felt normal. The following video was recorded by a woman who was simply filming a sweet moment with her daughter and a brand new toy she had just received. It was supposed to be an ordinary clip, just a mother capturing her child playing and showing off the toy. But while she was recording, something else ended up being caught on camera. Watch this.
Hi, baby. Hi. You like your new toy? Yeah. What's his name? Lovable. Lovable? Sure his name isn't like Fred or Henry? Oh, it's so cute. Alright, well, you're gonna be a good girl today since I bought you the toy? Yeah. Okay. Promise? All right. Say bye.
If you look closely at the doll sitting next to the candle, something strange happens. Right after the woman says the word lovable, the doll's hand appears to move slightly. After seeing this video, some suggested cleansing the room using things like sage or prayer, practices many people believe help remove negative or unwanted energy from a space. And of course, the most dramatic advice came from those who said to simply get rid of the doll entirely, donate it, throw it away, or remove it from the house just to be safe. Of course, it might have been nothing more than a coincidence, or a small mechanical shift in the toy. But seeing a doll move on its own, even slightly, is enough to make anyone uneasy. Now tell me, if this happened in your house, what would you do with that doll? This next video centers around a man named Nick, who manages a yogurt store. For quite some time, he brushed off the strange stories his employees kept telling him, like lights flickering unexpectedly, objects shifting when no one was near them, and an uneasy atmosphere that seemed to appear mostly during closing hours. At first, Nick assumed there had to be logical explanations. Maybe the building had faulty wiring, maybe something in the structure was causing vibrations, or maybe it was simply employees misinterpreting normal things after long shifts. But eventually, Nick experienced something himself. Watch this.
Okay, I'm literally at work right now. I'm alone. That's my car. There is not one other car in the parking lot. Look, the freaking light's flickering from the reflection in the window. I don't know what's going on. I'm here alone, and this is what I deal with that I usually don't catch on camera. This is the light switch. Ready? This? Oh, I think I stopped it. Did I stop it? No, I didn't. I didn't stop it. I don't know what's going on, and this makes absolutely no sense. And now it stopped. Good. And ready? Here we go. Because that makes sense, right? This is what I deal with, and no one understands. And of course I'm here alone, and this is like a friggin' murder house. This is my security cameras. There's no one here, so I don't understand. Oh my god, Jesus Christ. Hello?
At first glance, it might look like a typical electrical issue. Flickering lights aren't unusual in older buildings, and many viewers initially believed that was all it was. But a power problem doesn't explain what happens next. Moments later, a chair in the attic suddenly tips over on its own. No one is near it, no one touches it, yet it falls. Nick later revealed an unsettling detail. Before he even started recording that night, he heard something coming from inside the building, the faint sound of a girl softly singing somewhere in the store. According to Nick, this wasn't the first time he had heard it either. Another detail started making people think even harder about what might be happening. Right next door to the yogurt shop is another store that had recently gone out of business. The space has been sitting empty ever since, dark, unused, and completely silent. Some viewers began wondering whether whatever strange energy might have lingered there could have somehow moved next door. One evening, as Nick and his staff were getting ready to leave, this happened.
Okay guys, we've been sitting in the back for like 20 minutes now, and we're just watching the cameras, and stuff is still flickering and going on, but nothing happened back here, and we need to go home, and this is so freaking terrifying.
We're 50 minutes past our shift because of this shit.
We closed at 10, so we need to like, it's so dark because all the light switches are over here.
Stop it, stop.
Okay. Okay, this is what I mean. This room is over.
Oh my god.
This is
Oh my god.
This is what we're dealing with.
Oh my god, yo. Bro, Nick, did you on purpose?
I-
Yes. No, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you, Nick.
Stop! You're literally. Are you?
No, wait, no. Nah.
No. We literally looked away for like 2 seconds.
Something suddenly flies in Nick's direction, as if it had been thrown across the room. The object appears to come out of nowhere, almost like something inside the building didn't want him there. Startled, Nick and his staff quickly left the store, trying to make sense of what had just happened. But seconds later, when they looked back through the windows, they noticed the lights inside moving again. Some viewers believe the disturbances could still be related to electrical issues or structural problems inside the building. Others think the activity might be connected to something attached to the property itself, especially with the abandoned store sitting silently right next door. But for now, there's no clear explanation, and until more footage or updates appear, all anyone can really do is speculate. Now in this next clip, popular Midwest ghost hunter Ian visits one of the most feared locations in Indiana, the Blackford County Jail. Built in 1879, the building served a dual purpose. It wasn't just a prison where criminals were held behind thick steel bar, it was also the sheriff's residence. Law enforcement, punishment, and everyday family life all existed under the same roof. For more than a century, prisoners passed through its heavy doors, until the jail finally closed in 1995. But according to locals, the building never truly became empty. Visitors over the years have reported hearing disembodied voices echoing through the empty cell blocks. Some claim they've felt sudden sharp pains while walking through the halls, only to later discover scratch marks on their skin. And one of the most talked about figures said to haunt the jail is Sheriff Townsend himself, a former lawman who many believe still patrols the building long after his death. When Ian stepped inside, he immediately tried to communicate with whatever might still be there. Watch.
I hear that there's a man by the name of Ed Townsend. I heard that you were the sheriff here. You passed away from a heart attack. But they say that somehow you're still here. Holy shit, dude. Dude, those were footsteps. Holy shit. They were walking in that room over there. Dude, that literally came from back there. Damn. Did you just walk? Was that you just walking? I freaking heard you. Holy moly.
After nearly 40 minutes of sitting in silence, Ian heard footsteps like a large man walking somewhere inside the jail.
It sounded as if a large man was in the other room. Ed, was that you? But there was no man. I think I just heard you. Leaving this completely unexplainable. It sounded like it was over here. Like it would have been walking across this floor. My heart is racing already, and I just started. What almost sounds like a chair creaking emanates from the sheriff's office.
Still standing inside the sheriff's office, Ian suddenly hears another noise, the unmistakable creak of a chair shifting. The unsettling part? Ian was completely alone. Trying to push further, he attempts to communicate again with whatever might be inside the building, and for a while, nothing responds until this happens.
Alright, well, it's pretty quiet, so I think I'm gonna move on. Whoa, what the? Okay, Ed, I feel like you were definitely in here. What the heck was that? That was so weird. What the heck? Dude, that literally sounded like somebody was in there. What the heck? It was so quiet in there. Like nothing was happening. And then right when I walk out, that happens.
As he prepares to leave the sheriff's office, a very distinct sound cuts through the silence. It sounds exactly like a coffee cup being placed down on a hard surface. Ian immediately steps back into the room to check, but when he looks around, there's nothing there. Thinking the moment might be over, he starts walking away again, but seconds later, something shocking happens.
Anywhere in here? There's nothing there. I don't see anything there, like a mug. It literally sounded exactly like a coffee mug. Dude, there's nothing on these tables. Nothing up there. Ed, I'm definitely not going to try to tell you what to do, being a sheriff, but man, like that was interesting. Could you do that again? It's dead silent in here again. You know what? I'm gonna try walking out again. Okay, Ed. I'm leaving for sure this time. No f***ing way, dude. Again! Again! Dude, there's weird sounds going on in there. Every time I walk out, it happens. That's twice. That can't be like a coincidence. It sounded like paper almost. Alright, Ed, I can't tell if you're like messing with me now or what. I mean, either way, it's fine. I'm enjoying this.
This time, the sound of paper moving can be heard clearly, almost like someone shifting documents around on a desk. which is particularly strange considering where Ian is standing. The sheriff's office was once the place where reports were written, cases were reviewed, and paperwork was handled daily. So the question some viewers began asking was hard to ignore. Was that the sound of Sheriff Townsend himself, still going about his duties long after the jail closed, or something else? You decide. This next video comes from a paranormal investigation carried out by a team known as the Ethereal Sisters, who believe they may have captured visual evidence of a spirit during a live stream. During the investigation, the team suddenly reacts when a faint white shape appears above one of the investigators' heads. The moment catches everyone off guard, especially because it happens right as their K2 meter begins lighting up, a device paranormal investigators often use to detect sudden changes in electromagnetic energy. Watch closely.
Can you say that? Set it up, yeah. Hang on, oh my god, don't move, don't.
Moments later, the K2 meter starts triggering again, and the strange apparition appears once more. White apparition seems to drift back into the room. At first, one of the investigators tries to debunk what they saw, suggesting it might have been nothing more than cobwebs floating through the air and catching the light. But there were other things that didn't quite line up with that explanation. Listen closely. While they're discussing possible explanations, their K2 meter begins triggering again, as if something nearby is interacting with them, and then they capture another strange anomaly. Initially, the team thought it might simply be a reflection from someone's headlamp, but when they checked, the headlamp was turned off at that moment. Take a look.
So there are, because, I'm just trying to think, because, obviously this is old and there are spider webs. So I see there's a spider web up there, but I was looking, I wasn't looking through the screen. I saw the white thing out of the corner of my eye, and then I looked again off the camera and I couldn't see anything reflecting like it would be a spider.
As the light moves upward, it suddenly splits into 3 smaller orbs, circles around, then darts off in a different direction. Another detail viewers pointed out is that the movement goes in the opposite direction from where Adam's headlamp was, making the reflection theory harder to explain. After reviewing the footage later, the team also remembered something else that happened during the investigation. Around the same time the anomalies appeared, several of them reported feeling an unusual cold sensation around their legs, something investigators sometimes associate with sudden temperature drops. Of course, there are still possible natural explanations for things like this. Dust particles, insects, and light reflections can sometimes create strange shapes on camera. But when you combine the visual anomalies, the triggered equipment, and the unexplained cold spots, it's enough to make people wonder whether something else might have been in that house with them. So was it simply a coincidence? Or did the Ethereal Sisters actually capture something paranormal during their live investigation? Like always, I'll leave that one for you to decide. This video was recorded by paranormal investigators Dave and Jimmy as they explore the Cooney ghost house in Northern Ireland late at night. The property already has a reputation that makes even experienced investigators uneasy. Locals have long claimed that strange things happen inside the house, objects moving on their own, loud bangs echoing through empty rooms, and the unsettling feeling of being watched when no one else is there. What makes the location even more disturbing is its history. The Cooney house is widely known as the only private residence in Ireland, where an official exorcism was reportedly carried out after years of intense poltergeist activity. According to stories surrounding the house, the disturbances became so extreme that religious intervention was eventually requested. Curious to see if any of that activity still remains, Dave and Jimmy begin their investigation by setting up several pieces of equipment, including a static night vision camera and a necrophonic app, a device investigators sometimes use in attempts to communicate with spirits. During the session, one of their cameras captures something unusual. Watch this.
If you hear anything within any of these necrophonic sessions, by all means, let us know. Drop it into the comments section. We don't always hear it in the moment, so we would really appreciate if you would be able to drop it down there, and then it means I can...
If you look closely in the frame, something appears to be moving in the dark. It's difficult to tell what it might be, but what do you think? As the team begins preparing to leave the house, they suddenly hear something else. Watch.
Every time that I upload. Thank you very much.
Ooh. Hello?
Is that still recording?
Yeah.
Guys, just as we were going to do that, we are hearing all sorts of noises here, and it was definitely someone moving around us.
Hello?
Hello? Oh, okay, yes, guys. As I've just turned around and said, by all means, drop a comment down.
Oh shit.
What is that?
I think it's good. We need to get her here.
Yeah. Right, okay. Right, so I need you to help me here, Mom.
Footsteps can be heard somewhere inside the building, and then another sound follows. The investigators immediately notice it, and the tension in the room changes. At that point, Dave and Jimmy quickly decide it's time to wrap up the investigation and leave the property. Some viewers believe the sounds could be tied to the building's long history of reported disturbances, especially considering the extreme events that once led to an exorcism being performed there. Either way, moments like this are exactly why the Cooney house continues to attract investigators, and why so many people still consider it one of the most unsettling locations in the area. But what exactly moved in that room? And whose footsteps were echoing through the house that night? For now, it remains a mystery. Now this next video was captured by Nicole's neighbor's security camera, and to this day, it still has people scratching their heads trying to figure out what exactly it shows. Watch this. According to Nicole, her neighbor sent her the footage shortly after noticing the strange movement on their camera. When Nicole checked the timestamp, she realized something interesting. Around that exact moment, her son had been walking home from work and was only a short distance from the house. But when she later asked him about it, he said he didn't see anyone on the road. Nicole also mentioned that she wasn't entirely shocked to see something unusual show up on camera. The neighborhood itself sits on very old land, and locals have long shared stories about strange sightings and unexplained figures appearing late at night. Now, if you slow the footage down and look closely, the shape moving through the darkness almost looks like the outline of a man riding a horse, galloping quickly past the camera before disappearing out of frame. That detail immediately reminded many viewers of an old piece of folklore, the legend of the Headless Horseman, a ghostly rider said to appear on dark roads late at night, sometimes seen only briefly before vanishing again into the darkness. So what do you think? A shadow, a camera illusion, or something riding through the night that wasn't meant to be seen? You decide. This next video comes from a woman who is well known online for her unusual hobby, collecting dolls. And not just a few, she owns hundreds of them. Her collection ranges from unique antique dolls to modern designer pieces, horror-themed art dolls, and even dolls that some collectors claim are haunted. According to her, she finds the whole hobby fascinating and says she's always open to adding more pieces to the collection. Every now and then, she records videos, simply walking through the room and showing people different dolls in her collection, explaining where they came from and why she likes them. She often tells viewers that despite how creepy some of them might look, the dolls themselves are peaceful. But during one of those videos, something unexpected happened. Watch closely. At first, everything looks normal. The dolls are sitting quietly on their shelves, but if you look carefully at one doll in particular, its arm appears to move. Moments like this are exactly why dolls have always had such an eerie reputation. They look human enough to feel familiar, but when something about them moves unexpectedly, it immediately triggers that uncomfortable feeling that something isn't right. But like always, you be the judge.